welcome to my podcast on real relationships. My name is Sophie Passon, and I am a relationship expert, international speaker, and best-selling author of the book Your Other Half. I decided to start this podcast because, in my opinion, relationships are currently not being portrayed as what they really are. Whether you're watching the news or on social media, the perception given to people is wrong, and my aim is to talk about what happens in the real world, talk about real stories, and listen to what real people think, do, or go through, as opposed to creating expectations of something that doesn't actually exist even. I may not agree with everything that is said by my guests, but it is their chance to express their opinions and their stories. And today we have Collette Gee from Hawaii. Hi, Collette.
Hi, Sophie. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. You?
I'm great, thank you.
So we are going to talk about the fact that you are a dating coach and about dating in general. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Yes, I am a dating and relationship expert. I work with men and women to create and sustain healthy, meaningful relationships. I've been doing this since 2011, although I feel like I've been experienced in helping people with relationships far longer than that. I do workshops and training and presentations, one-to-ones. I've written a book called Finding Happily, No Rules, No Frogs, No Pretending. And that's pretty much my expertise, my experience, where it comes from.
Okay, so we kind of do the same thing, to be honest, which is how we met anyway. However, you're in the States where it's quite popular to use a dating coach and people actually get the concept. But in Europe, in the UK, where I am, it's still fairly new. And some people don't really know they exist, let alone what it's all about. So could you tell us a little bit more about it, please?
Yes, a dating coach. You know, when I was in London, I remember talking to people about dating coaches, etc. And you're right, not many people there are familiar with dating coaches like they are in the US. I live in Los Angeles full time, but I'm here in Hawaii because I'm doing some presentations and stuff here. And what dating coaches do is like any coach. If you wanted to get the perfect body, you wouldn't just go try to figure out a machine in the gym. You could try on your own, but if you got an actual physical trainer or a coach at the gym that you work out at, you would find that your body could be molded into the form that you really want to see. You would get the results that you really want versus trying to figure it out on your own. Well, a dating coach is no different. If you had a toothache, you go to a dentist. If your car needs work, you'd go to a mechanic. If your love life is lacking, you go to an expert in that area. So that's the best way that I could describe what a dating coach does.
And that's quite interesting, really, because when I speak about it in the UK, people sometimes can look at me a bit weird and they're like, oh, well, if I haven't met anybody, it's just because I haven't met anybody. And I try to explain to them that it's not as simple as that. And yes, indeed, but that's quite clear, they're still on their own. But sometimes it's not the meeting somebody, it's recognizing that person. And you can only do that when you're in a certain place in your own life. And if you have dealt with a lot of emotional baggage and issues that you're carrying from the past.
I agree with you. I think because when you're talking about whether it's people's relationships romantically or their relationship to their health or relationships to money, you are dealing with some very deep embedded emotions and feelings. And it's hard for people to look at their lives like there's something wrong in any one of those areas. We like to assume that we can cover it ourselves. The thing is like, it's very rare that people talk and or teach about love and relationships. We model them and we learn about love and dating and relationships and how to form healthy, meaningful relationships from our parents, or our caregivers, or television, or the media. But it's not something that we just automatically know just because. So if people are bringing in whatever past relationship uh, stories that they have, and the other person is bringing theirs in, and they create these relationships based on their perceptions or their ideas about what relationships should look like, and then it's not necessarily working out for them. It's not because a coach is not telling you there's something wrong with you. A coach is just trying to help you retrain those areas of your life so that you can go out there and open yourself up to have better quality relationships. More than likely, the relationship that you're really looking for when you're not getting the relationship that you want.
And I think this is the thing. A lot of people seem to think, oh, but there's nothing wrong with me. And it isn't about being something wrong with you per se. It's about understanding why, for instance, you're in a pattern where you attract a particular type, or why you're not actually meeting anybody. And I think the other thing as well, some people like to think that they want someone, but actually they're not ready.
I agree. I have a client that I'm working with, and it's been an ongoing challenge with her. She used to date one particular kind of guy, ethnic certain ethnicity at that. And now she decided, oh, I'm not going to date that guy, those types of looking guys from that ethnicity anymore. And now she's dating these other guys, but she's getting the same results, because the problem isn't the guys, the problem is her choices. And so that's what I try to explain to her. What happens is we continue to try to play out the same scenarios in our lives. So we by creating that scenario, we choose the partner in, and we think that there's something wrong with these individuals, when that's not the case. I don't think there's anything wrong with anybody. I absolutely have this belief that we're all perfect, because even in our imperfections, we're perfect. But what I think happens is our perception gets skewed, based on the experiences that we have, and it can create some blocks in our lives that have us believing that in the story or the belief systems that we're under. So that's what my thoughts are.
So what got you into it in the first place?
Oh, I was one of those people that was out there looking for love for all the right reasons in all the wrong places. And I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And after I asked my family, friends, even God, why I wasn't living happily ever after in some castle on the hill with, 2 kids and a white picket fence, the one place that I failed to look was within myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me really going within and asking myself these questions, and not blaming myself for the failures that I had in my relationships, but really trying to figure out what is it that I actually wanted. And so once I discovered the secret to, love and relationships, I wanted to share it first with my friends. And I then wanted to share it with family members. And so I wrote my book, and then I thought, well, who the heck's going to read this? And hence that's what put me on this journey of going out there and teaching and coaching and doing events and things like that, to really reach more people, so that women and men who were going through what I was going through didn't have to struggle with trying to figure out how to find their happiness,
Mm-hmm. And obviously we all have our favourite tools, so to speak, and for me that's NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming. What's yours?
Well, I do love NLP, but I think for me, my favorite tool that I use right now is True Colors.
Mm-hmm.
It's my favorite one.
Do you want to explain a bit more about it for people who don't know what that is, please?
Sure. True Colors is sort of a little personality test. sort of like the Myers-Briggs.
Yeah.
And you give this questionnaire to people, and they choose which answers are more like themselves. And then at the end, the result is either you're a blue, green, orange, or a yellow, or gold, or something like that. And it helps you to understand how people see you and how you see yourself. It isn't a trick question or anything, though people are like, oh my God, the test is right on. But it's not that the test is right on. It's your perception of yourself, therefore creates the world that you see and the world that people see when they see you. And so it really helps to give people this tool so that they can actually hello?
I'm here.
Oh, sorry.
That's all
So
right.
that they can actually communicate better with others and get an idea of how people may see them. So that's my favorite tool right now. I give it to every potential client and or clients that I'm working with. So,
And I think that's an interesting point that you make here, which is how we perceive ourselves to be and how people see us.
yeah, because my perception of myself projects who you see that I am. Okay. And so if my perception of myself is that I'm whole, perfect, and complete, or my perception of myself is that I, am not dateable, perhaps if I had that perception that, my relationships never work out, that's my perception of myself. I'm just saying, for example, then that's going to project who you see that I am. And so by giving people this tool, it helps them to see what their perception of themselves is so that they can understand why people see the person it is that they see. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, completely. I mean, I know, for instance, people see me very much, interestingly, throughout my life, I've always been seen, for instance, as a very good salesperson, someone that would do really well in a sales environment and all the rest of it. And actually, I absolutely hate it. I can't think of anything worse apart from plucking my own toenails off. Do you know what I mean? So it's really interesting that people see that in you, and you really don't, because you really don't like it.
Right, right. I can relate because most people think that I'm perfect. Like, I get that a lot. Like, oh, you're so pretty and perfect. You probably have no problems in your life. Which obviously that isn't true because I'm a human being and I have tons of
And it's two different
problems.
things, actually. As you say, it's
Absolutely.
perception.
It's a
Being
perception.
pretty
Yes.
does not prevent problems, unfortunately.
But that's their perception
That's
of
right.
themselves projecting onto me. That has nothing to do. Who they see that I am has little to do with what I see and more to do with who they perceive that I am based on their own perceptions. So yeah. So perception has a lot to do with the way we date, period.
No, definitely. And what would you say are the benefits of using a dating coach?
The benefits of using a dating coach is to break
Patterns?
dating patterns and behaviors, unwarranted outcomes, dating outcomes, lonely nights, being alone when you don't want to be, building up confidence and self-esteem, being able to connect with anybody and talk with anybody, anywhere, anytime, no matter what. Getting along well with coworkers, having better luck with your money. Dating coaches really help you with relationships. And once you can master relationships, you can use that what you learn with a dating coach pretty much in any area of your life.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, what people don't see in that, yes, indeed, they can probably do it by themselves. It'd take them an awful lot longer. That's the only thing.
Mm-hmm.
So potentially
Yeah.
wasting years.
And not everybody can do it by themselves. Some people will never figure it out because they're stuck in their behaviors and the patterns that they're running, the loop, the negative loop, or the dating
But at
loop
the
that
same
they're
time, I
in.
also think that some people are not well suited to being coached because to a degree they don't want to.
You have to want to.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
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 And what would you say? Now, this is a subject that can get me on my soapbox on any day, but what would you say is the number one problem for single people at the moment?
Expectations. Their
I agree. I agree.
expectations. Oh my God. Mhm.
You just have to read a really online dating profile, right? And it's a list of, I want this, 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 I want this. And there's nothing about what we can give to the world, you know? It's just like, oh, I want a man. This is just, I'm making it up, but I'm not far off, the truth. I want someone who has got a big house, a nice car, a nice job, is really good looking, who's got this, that, and the other. And what have you got to offer? Oh, are you in a spare bedroom somewhere? But
I
that's it.
agree.
And it's just like, it's not realistic, And also, it's things that actually could go just like that. Because if someone has a car crash, they're not qualities. It's not about the person being nice, having, being loyal, being this, that, or the other. It's all about material stuff.
I agree. I give people a tool where you write down 20 things that you want. Then you write down, take 10 of those things that you need, and then 5 that you require from the one list that they created out of the 20 things. When it comes down to it, people want a lot of things. We want tall, this, that, and the other. I always find clients, male and female, that want someone that looks a certain way. It's always physical or financial.
Mm.
Um, and I want somebody that looks this way, but you don't look that way yourself. And I don't mean like beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but let's keep it real here. How can you call this man overweight if you yourself are, overweight too? Why is it that you both can't go work out together? Weight is something that, if it's not a health issue, can be lost.
Mm-hmm.
And someone can go from looking as thin as I am to not being as thin as I am anymore. So does that mean that my husband should leave me because I gained too much weight? Maybe I have things going on. I mean, that's very shallow. Telling someone that they have to make as much money as you. I get a lot of my female clients that complain, I need somebody that makes as much money as me. And these women make a lot of money. And maybe the men out there that are wonderful, perfect men that take care of themselves, they don't have the money that these women have, but they have everything else on this woman's list, and she'll shoot them down. She'll shoot them down.
And I think that this is one of the things, for me, one of the things that used to be important, well, it's going to sound really ridiculous, but I don't actually remember what that was. Yes, it was kind of status, being quite high up. And what I realised is actually it wasn't that so much. It was the ambition, wanting to better themselves. And I now know that. But obviously this is something when I was in my 20s, I'm now 40, so that's slightly, But I think this is a problem. A lot of the time, what we want obviously evolves with age and whatever, experiences. But we need to adjust our expectations because they're not always real.
No, I'm sorry, but most of the people that come to me, their expectations far exceed their reality.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can expect to play tennis like Venus and Serena Williams, but no matter how much I play, I will get better, but I probably will never be as good as
That
them.
level.
Okay? Not that level. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't shoot for the stars by any means. Go for it. However, I think there has to be some level of realism in your expectations. And you also need to really consider when you're putting down what you really, expect or want from somebody in a relationship. Ask yourself, more or less, what are you willing to share from your life with this individual? It's not about what you can get all the time. It's about what you want to share with somebody. We came here to share our lives, not to just get something. When you say that you need to get this from somebody else, what you're putting out there is that you lack something in that area of your life and that you have to get it from some other human being. But if you come to the table full already of everything that you need in this life, and now you want to share that life with somebody else, well, that's a whole different story.
And I think the other thing as well is, obviously, if you meet somebody in your 20s, 30s, 40s, even in your 60s to a degree, yes, you can get on, but you need to look at life in the same way. And that's actually far more important. I think people forget that, yes, you need chemistry, you need attraction, you need all of these things. But let's be realistic. 20 years on in a relationship, what is going to make it pull through is the companionship, the friendship, how you get on, how you interact. Do you want the same things going forward? That's what actually matters. It's actually the details to a degree, as opposed to the bigger picture at times.
I agree. I think what keeps me and my husband bonded isn't because I necessarily had our values are aligned, and values go deep, when it comes to, what your spiritual views are and your political views are, and, humanitarian ideals, stuff like that. But it isn't because someone, has a big house at the end of the day, or versus a small house. I could live in a shoebox with my husband because I absolutely love him and I love being around him, and our relationship is just so great. Traveling around the world, we have spent time in certain places in Africa where I felt like we were in a shoebox for 3 months at a time, and yet it didn't feel like it because we just really get along. And I think that those things are extremely important. But that's the challenge nowadays, dealing with singles out there.
And I think the other thing, whilst is taken out of context to a degree, but there is a quote from Dr. Wayne Dyer. It's not an exact quote, it's what I roughly remember right now, but which is that, the things that we want in the morning of our lives change, and that in the afternoon, it's not what we wanted, really. So in our 40s, 50s, we don't want the same things that we did in our 20s. And by the evening, so when we got older, we realised that everything that we wanted in the morning was a lie. And I think that really highlights it. And one of the things I really see is how people who are either in a second marriage, third marriage, or a second long-term relationship, third long-term relationship, actually they don't want the same things anymore, and they work at it in a different way. They don't pick the people in the same way, and actually normally last a lot longer too.
I agree. I mean, I've been married multiple times, and so having this marriage, and I reflect on my previous marriages, and oh my gosh, like, no way. First of all, the way I made my choices was completely different than I would ever make my choices today. And so, but I don't think that type of maturity happens in every person that's out there single and dating. Some individuals never mature in love, never. I think
it's about growth in general, isn't it?
It is. But some people can grow in some areas of their lives, but when it comes to the way they deal with relationships to other people in the romance department is different. For some people. With women, they're always looking to fulfill the rescue fantasy, and with men, they are looking to fulfill the, find the woman that looks like, she just stepped out of a Playboy model magazine, and it's very unrealistic on both parts.
And actually, it's interesting because my next question, and I think that yeah, it is true that women are probably more attracted to rescuing people, but I find that in general, a lot of single people are looking for someone to complete them, as opposed to them completing themselves, helping themselves, getting, being what they should be. Instead of looking for someone to, add value to their life, shall we say, they look for someone to be their life.
Yeah, it's really sad, because when you talk to women out there primarily, and I'm saying this for women because I don't hear it as often from men as I do from women, but women literally will say, well, he needs to have, and the list goes on. And when you ask a woman, well, what are you bringing into this? And it's like, no, this isn't going to work because he didn't do this. There's a perfect example. Woman I know, this man shows up into her life. He's absolutely perfect, beautiful, gorgeous, smart, intelligent. The list goes on. And because he didn't fulfill the meeting her in a certain fantasy that she can fulfill, so she can say, I did it this way, she thought, no, it's not going to work because he didn't do X, Y, and Z, or say X, Y, and Z in this kind of way. And I just thought, why does it have to be like, it sounds like they're so freaking needy for some way to come off that it's no wonder these women are single, because they need so much and they have very little to give. And if you ask them, oh, I can cook, I can clean, I can do that, I'm a really nice person, I'm a good woman to have, and it's like, but so is he. What else are you bringing into this? He can cook for himself. He doesn't need a housewife. He doesn't need this. He doesn't need those things. First of all, we assume that everybody speaks the same love language as you do. So maybe those aren't the things on his list that he considers worthy of, a woman bringing into the relationship. But women have a tendency to come off very I need, and very little about them is about giving anything to the relationship. They just want to be rescued and treated like, so they can have the fantasy that this man swept them off their feet and they are living this happily ever after facade,
Yeah. Right. Believe it or not, we're actually getting to the end of our time. So my last question would be, what would you say to someone who is currently struggling to meet someone?
I would say to anyone out there who's listening to this podcast, if you are struggling to meet someone, my suggestion is to ask yourself a question, one question. And that question is, what is it that you believe? Why is it that you believe that you're struggling to meet someone? And if you can answer that question, that's your answer.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Well, Collette, thank you so much again for your time today. It was lovely talking to you as always.
Thank you for having me.
No worries at all. So to everybody else, if you enjoyed the show, then please subscribe, leave us a review, but more importantly, come back for the next episode. Thank you.